Good evening, students. This is Professor Estrada with your Week 5 video lecture. I hope that at this point you've enjoyed the content, the course, and anything else that American Literature Section 1 has to offer you. First and foremost, I am already on the homepage of Brightspace for our course. Left side, just as a review, as always, announcements. Be sure to always pay attention to these. If anything were to be changed, such as due dates or where to find submission modules, they can always be found on this side. Again, my information on how to contact me is on my right side. It tells you that I can be reached at aestrada@hillcollege.edu. And once again, just to review, while you have the work to do and the calendar pages right here, they're really quick to have you open up and go into assignment. Please bear in mind that they may have different due dates than what is listed on the assignment. They in turn always have the extra due dates that you're allotted. Mind you, I open up the folder. It usually runs from a Monday morning till about a Sunday night. And then after every due date past that, I just deduct points. But always make sure that you're paying attention to that Sunday due date, as this class does have Sunday due dates in the weekly folder. Once again, I'm going to go to the content page. Content banner tab, sorry. And while you may be able to see this as you're watching this in real time, and I record this a couple of days early, pay no mind to if these are there or not, but I'm simply going to open up the week 5 folder so that way you see it. So we do have a couple of poems that we're going to be looking at in the week 5 folder. We have the lecture slides. We have The Tide Rises and the Tide Falls by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I also included the audio if you would like to go back and listen to the audio. My Lost Youth by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the text, but also the audio. That's why it looks a little bit longer in this in this section. It's because I included the work itself as a text, but also the author. Nature by Henry David Thoreau, the audio of Henry David Thoreau. Let Us Consider by Henry David Thoreau, The Boston Hymn by Emerson, Self-Reliance, the essay by Emerson as the text, but also the audio version. And as well as reading through the authors and their works, there is a discussion board, understanding the lines, but also quiz 4 over these poems, week 5, day 1. And then it says review significance of a title. Instructions as a PDF are available. So the instructions for this are here, and we'll go over that in a minute. But it extends through week 6, day 2. That is where you'll find its submission form. And then it says week 5, day 1 contents are due on a Sunday, February 2nd. While the calendar on the home page, and I'll pull it up. When I mean the home page, I mean right here, the home page, the work overdue or work to do, or the calendar may say a different date. Always pay attention to what the syllabus says. So we have our lecture slides. I'm about to pull them up here in a minute. We have the poems followed by the audio. So the poem will usually be like a text page, and then the audio would be like a clip. You do have to click on them, and usually the PDF or the website will pop up. So for text, they usually pop as a PDF. If it's an audio, you have to click on the tabs. And we'll go through and we'll look at the lecture slides as well as some of these contents that are found here. So let's look at the lecture slides. And I'm in my office recording this one, so I do apologize if it's zoomed out. Let me go ahead and zoom it out. So this is American Literature. This is our section. This is the next slide. Let me go ahead and zoom out just a little bit more so that way you can see it. Recap of week 4. We're going to look at the online folder and some important reminders. So this is my beautiful slide, as if you could see it. Beautiful with the lighthouse. It says continuation of the spotlight authors going into this week's folder. We're looking at Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Longfellow. We're going to be looking at their works and readings, which are poems and a couple of essays, going into the discussion board number 7 and quiz 4. And just reviewing the assignment, significance of a title. Okay. It also says on the next slide, let me go ahead and zoom. Let me zoom in. It also says, the next slide, I'm available for office hours. My physical office hours are Mondays and Wednesdays, 9 through lunchtime. My office is office 246. However, if you would need or would like to set up a video conference outside of those hours, let me know and I will do my best to make availability for you. I have some afternoons that I'm able to do so. So I can be reached at astradaHillCollege.edu if you would like to set that up with me. And then we're highlighting Emerson as our first spotlight author, 1803 to 1882. And I love this quote that he wrote: "Nature never hurries. Atom by atom, little by little, she achieves her work." And here are some background information on Emerson. He's the father of the Transcendentalist movement. He's the son of a minister. He became one himself. Like Poe, he suffered losses of loved ones, and he was considered the spiritual voice of his generation. In order to earn a living, Emerson turned to lecturing. A marvelously effective speaker, he began to give public lectures. He warned against the materialism and money-making that were becoming a driving force in the nation. The move from Boston to Concord fulfilled a great desire of Emerson, a desire for the solitude and peace that he found in nature. In nature, Emerson found a refuge to the ills of society that concerned him. In the woods around Concord, he meditated on the web of nature through which God and the eternity can be seen. This connection to nature became a major theme of Transcendentalism, an important aspect of American Romanticism. Emerson was the chief spokesperson of Transcendentalism. Artistically, Emerson rejected old views of aesthetics and looked for new and different definitions of art and beauty. He found these new definitions in nature. There are no objects so foul that intense light would not make beautiful. Such is the constitution of all things, or such the plastic power of the human eye. His writings are considered major documents of the 19th century religion and thought. His point of interest was journalism, nonfiction, fiction and poetry, writing, and publishing. And we have some major works by Emerson: the Boston Hymn, which is a poem that you'll be looking at. We have Essays, which was published in 1841, which contains self-reliance, another essay that you'll be looking at. And these essays incorporated his themes of lifestyle, virtue, death, and unity. Then we have Henry David Thoreau. Kind of looks like Abraham Lincoln right here. 1817 to 1862. It's not what you look at, it's what you see. Some important facts and bibliography of Henry David Thoreau. He was born July 12, 1817, May 6, 1862. One of his first memories was of staying awake at night looking through the stars to see if he could see God through them. He was a poet, writer, abolitionist, naturalist, tax resistor, surveyor, historian, and leading transcendentalist. While at Harvard, Henry read a novel titled Nature by his fellow colleague neighbor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, which propelled him to seek new ideologies and philosophies. And some major works by Thoreau: Nature, a poem, written to be a metaphor for human growth, and Let Us Consider, an excerpt taken from Walden, Chapter 1, Economy, exploring the meaning of relevance and conformity. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, our next writer. Look then into thine heart and write, 1807 to 1882. The next slide. Important facts of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He taught at Harvard beginning in 1836. He married Frances Appleton, had 6 children together. His wife tragically died after becoming severely burned to her dress catching on fire. His famous beard contains scars from attempting to save his wife from the fire. And he tried to translate many works, including Dante's Divine Comedy, as a means to comfort himself. Some recognitions of Longfellow: more than 1 million copies of his poems have been sold. Was granted private audience with royalties in his time, such as Queen Victoria, and he became the first American to be honored a memorial in the Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey, a distinction reserved for the greatest English poets. And some major works by Longfellow. The Tide Rises and the Tide Falls, which is a poem made famous in the 1880s, tells of a traveler who rushes along the shore as the sun sets. It is a contrast of the ongoing cycles of the natural world. And so these are just my lecture slides. I'm now going to press the escape button. That's how I closed it out. And these will be poems that you'll be reading during this week. Again, ignore these emojis. I just recorded this in time, so by the time you see this, you'll be able to have these available to you. The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls, My Lost Youth, O Nature, Let Us Consider, the Boston Hymn, and Self-Reliance. And let's go ahead and open up some of this stuff so that way you see it. I have the discussion board right here. I'm about to open it up. The word count is also here. The word count let me go ahead and open that. It just counts your words. You are more than always welcome to type the discussion board in here or save it elsewhere. Save it first and foremost somewhere that you can find it. And have the words copied right here. And as some of you are starting to see, I do take off points if you don't meet the requirement, but also if you don't reply to people. While your original post will always get you a good grade, replying to people is also part of the instructions. So I'm going to click on discussion board number 7, and it says for me to go to the discussion to view it. And as you're watching this in real time, you'll be able to see me type in stuff. So our discussion board number 7 says understanding the lines. After reading the poetry of some of these influential writers, I want you to think in terms of poetry, philosophy, nature, simplicity, and the pursuit of life. And look at some of these poems. And each of these questions or sections are going to ask you to look at or review the authors and or their poems. So part 1 is Longfellow. There's 2 questions. Part 3 is Thoreau. Part 2 is Thoreau. Part 3 is Emerson. And while each of the questions may have specific directions, it says there's no word count to your original post. Just make sure each section or question is in complete sentences. And then go ahead and respond to people, at least 3 people this time. And notice that that is 3 people, at least 3 to 4, with your responses to them being 150 to 200 words, a little paragraph, if you will. And then I have the example outline right here if you would like to know how to compliment people. But at this point, many of you already know how, and you're doing a spectacular job with it. And here is the due date, Sunday, February 2nd. Again, you can start the new thread. You can type in anything, type in some letters. And you're seeing this in real time, so it may not look like much. So I'm just typing in random letters and numbers so that way you see it. I'm going to go ahead and post. Now you have your first post from Mrs. Estrada. Okay, we have our quiz number 4. It's entirely over. I think you're going to see, you're just going to see the questions right here. You're just going to see the instructions for the questions. It's an online quiz relevant only to week 5, day 1 short stories or poems. There's only 5 questions. You get 2 attempts, and the quiz is timed at an hour each. And mind you, for quizzes, the computer will automatically grade the multiple choice true, false, but I have to go in and grade your manual responses. So it does take a while for me to go back and grade the manual responses. So this is the next thing. Again, this is found here, but it's not going to be submitted until week 6. So this is simply the directions for this assignment. It's called Writing Assignment Significance of a Title. In reading a work or a reading, the story's title is the first impression. People make a first impression with appearance, wardrobe, body language, and so what. Stories do it with a title. A title creates anticipation, expectation, or disinterest. Often the title is what will determine if a story is even read. So it says directions, answer each section accordingly. Each will ask for specific objective. Be sure to include web links, quotes, or sentences if it requires it. So it's simply going to ask you some following questions, and I would like you to answer as clear as possible. First question, using the web, copy, paste, or type out any definition of the word title, whatever pops up, and simply put it right here. And this is also something that you can download. And if you want to recreate its submission on a Word doc, the submission form, which is found in week 6, may have it as a document or this PDF, but you get to recreate it however you would like to. If you want to just include everything and write your own answers on here, you can. If you just want to list it on a separate document, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so question 2. Using the web, find a website or online web page that discusses or states the purpose of a title. Copy that sentence or a few from any website. Be sure to include the website below. Note, do not use a website ending in .com. Find a website that ends in .gov, org, or edu, and just say, what is a title? Give it a definition or the purpose of a title, and whatever that sentence pops up, using that as the ending of that website, just write it right there. Okay, and then there's sections. So this one says using only an author from this week, week 5, both sections, write their name below and list 4 to 6 of their works. And this can include novels, titles of short stories, anything that author has written in their lifetime, even if it's not works covered in our class. You don't have to add anything else, just the titles. For example, if you type in Emerson, list 4 of his works. Okay, from those titles, select the title. So from these from Emerson. If you choose Emerson, write 4 of his works. From these titles, select the title that sounds the most interesting or promising, even if you have read the work before or not. The objective here is to look between the lines and focus on the title. Give a response of 3 to 4 complete sentences on why you think the title matters. Is it catchy? Is it suspicious? In short, what does the title give off regarding feelings or emotion? List the title and the response. Okay, and then opinions of titles. Looking at previous works from the entire semester, list 3 titles in each of the categories below. You don't have to explain why, you can just use their titles. So using all the works from the entire course, explain or look at works from week 1 through week 6, part 2. Any title. Pick 3 that are bland titles, pick 3 that are appealing or interesting, and pick 3 that are memorable or stick out. And just list the titles right there. And then it says right here, the authors we have looked at within the course often focus on a theme or style to drive their work forward. Even so, we utilize and critique many of the works during this day, especially in American literature. Search the folders and works we have looked at and categorize a title from each period. Just the title is needed. So the best work or the title from the colonial period, the best title from the neoclassical period, and the best title from the Romantic period. Okay. Step 2, from the many works you have covered, the title can be the most misleading or the idea why it is enjoyable to read. Choose one author from the entire semester and discuss a work on which the title is the key element on why it is famous, exceptional, or mostly well known. Think of a work that is famous only for the title and discuss why it's well known or why it should be considered a classic. Herman Melville, Moby Dick. We know many of our works from many other stories are classic. I include my classics within American literature as many of these. The Tide Rises, The Tide Falls is an easy one. If you go into Walt Whitman, many of his works are great. You can just pull from the folders themselves and look at one of these and say why it is famous. So I'm going to go back to this, and I'm just using my mouse and going all the way down. And that's it. That's the rest of, that was the questions. That was the question. So it's seemingly just the directions that are found here. So it's just the directions. So the submission for this and or the document, in case you don't want the PDF, is found in the week 6 folder. But if you want to re-download this and put your own works, you're more than welcome to. But if it's asking you to go through all the folders, you're more than welcome to go through all of these folders and look at some of these. Okay, I'm now going to go into the week 5 part 2 folder. And we have our lecture slides. We have the abridged version of Rip Van Winkle. We have a cartoon that you are more than welcome to watch. The abridged version of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. Animated short, another cartoon if you would like to watch that. The Raven and the Mask of the Red Death, both by Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, I also included the audio for The Mask of the Red Death and The Raven as narrated by Sir Christopher Lee. Also Saruman from The Lord of the Rings, The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, if you are interested in that. He narrated these for us, so not for us, for YouTube. I'm sorry. For everybody, for the public, and you're more than welcome to listen to these. Many great authors and many great people have found audio to be a better option, so I included Sir Christopher Lee. There's also an extra credit opportunity. This opportunity will give you up to 8 points on your lowest major grade. That includes some of the following: exams, essays, and annotated bibliography. Disregard group presentation. That's not supposed to be there. And the group content for this is Sunday, February 22nd. Okay, so we have our lecture slides and we have the works right here. And we just have the extra credit. There's no discussion board and no quiz. All right, so I'm going to pull up the week 5, day 2. These are my lecture slides. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. For week 5, day 2, we have the to-do list for week 5, day 2, recap of week 5, day 1, the online folder for week 5, day 2, important reminders, and our mini lecture on Gothic poets of literature. And this tells you the recap of what the week 5, day 1 folder should look like, exactly how it should look like within the folder. Tells you the due dates and the works. The next slide tells you what's in the folder online for week 5, day 2. Consider this, if we were actually in the classroom, you would be looking at this together with me, and this would be the first thing that we do. We would look at the lecture slides. Okay, and as you see, I'm zooming out because I'm in my office recording this, but this is the introduction to the Gothic authors of poetry. We have Washington Irving, who was known for short stories, essays, biographies, historians, esteemed diplomat of the early 19th century. Okay, his significance biography was he was called the father of the American literature. He is first thought of as the first American writer to make his living primarily through his creative work, and he was the first American acclaimed by the English literary establishment of worthy of recognition. Irving was seen as America's literary declarer of independence. While he is primarily remembered for the short stories of Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, he also wrote an extensive biography of George Washington. He was born in New York City. He was the one of 8 in his family of children. Both his parents immigrated from England to New York 20 years earlier, and his father became a merchant to support the family. As Irving grew up, he found that the things that gave him the most joy in life were reading, drawing, and writing. Irving's series of short stories helped to demonstrate his unique sense of humor and style, best demonstrated by the short story Rip Van Winkle. His biography of George Washington has timelessly demonstrated his keen ability for presenting history in a professional manner. It has become one of the most important biographies of the 19th century and still serves as one of the most famous depictions of Washington's life. And including this, a little bit of Rip Van Winkle. The title character Rip is a good-natured man who is perpetually henpecked or bothered and nagged by his wife. While his domestic affairs are always in disarray, he is ever the helpful neighbor and is beloved by his townspeople. One day on his usual route to go squirrel hunting and on the mountains, Rip encounters a stranger who leads him to a mysterious ravine occupied by unusual beings. Against his better judgment, Rip drinks with the group and falls asleep, and this is part of the story. Later, when he finally wakes up and makes his way to his village, his life is forever changed. Through Rip's tale, Irving explores the history of the Catskill Mountains while intermingling with the traditions of the Old World and European myth. By creating his own folklore through Rip's adventure, Irving characterizes the inevitability of change and the consequences of evading one's responsibilities. And if you haven't read this story before, I urge you to look at this adaptation and see what you think of it. And if you haven't, I hope that you enjoy it. And if you have, I hope that you like this adaptation. We also have Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This story opens up about a note with a tale that was found among the peers of a deceased man named Diedrich Knickerbocker. The story of a young man named Ichabod Crane, who was a school teacher in a place called Sleepy Hollow 30 years earlier, around the year 1790. The most frightening of one of these tales is the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, who is believed to be the ghost of a Hessian soldier decapitated by a cannonball during the American Revolution. The Headless Horseman is reported to ride swiftly through Sleepy Hollow at night, as if reenacting the battle that took his head, before returning at daybreak to the churchyard where he is buried. Regarding on a more prominent note, it is a tale of jealousy, fright, and suspense. And I hope you like this one, and the cartoons that go with it. We also have Edgar Allan Poe, 1809 to 1849. He was known for being a writer, poet, author, editor, and literary critic. Edgar Allan Poe was an American short story author who is famous for his cultivation of mystery and the macabre. Macabre definition is disturbing or horrifying, having the quality of grim or ghastly nature. The woes and deaths of his family and weary childhood led Poe into poverty and dismissal of employment in numerous jobs. Known for his works and lectures, Poe was often seen drinking heavily, and thus the addiction was to become his lifestyle. More continuation of his biography is much of Poe's best works are concerned with terror and sadness, but in the ordinary circumstances of the poet was a pleasant companion. He talked brilliantly of literature and read his own poetry and that of others in a voice of surpassing beauty. He admired Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. His work reflected that of writing angelic, weird poetry with a supreme sense of rhythm and word appeal, a problem of morbid psychology or the outlines of an unrelenting plot in a hard and dry style that was often seen in latter works towards the end of his life. We also look at some of his poems. One of his famous poems is The Raven, and we'll be looking at that during this week. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe is one of the most well-known poems ever written. It brought its author worldwide fame and has frequently been analyzed, performed, and discussed in all academic levels of education. The Raven is a poem about a man who is heartbroken over the recent death of his beloved Lenore. And as he passes a lonely December night in his room, a raven taps reportedly on the door and then the window. The man first thinks the noise is caused by the late night visitor come to disturb him, and he is surprised to find that the raven when he opens the window shutter. And they also have, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I was at. I lost my marker. Okay, so we also have The Mask of the Red Death, 1842. The Mask of the Red Death is a short story that discusses a medieval land ravaged by the Red Death, a plague that causes swift, agonizing death. Prince Prospero, the main character, retreats to his castle with 1,000 knights and ladies. There he welds the doors and windows shut, confident that he and his guest will escape death. Prospero gives a masquerade ball, and as the story progresses and at midnight, the grotesquely costumed courtiers find a fearful figure among them, costumed in shrouds and dried blood as the Red Death, which is proved in reality to be. And here are my lecture slides. I'm pressing the exit button right now, so that way you're able to see the works. We have Rip Van Winkle as text and audio, Legend of Sleepy Hollow as a text and audio, The Raven text and audio, Mask of the Red Death, and then we have an extra credit. I'm going to go ahead and open up the extra credit for you so that way you're able to see it. It simply says for extra credit, I would like you to discuss 2 of the following, and it gives you a list. And then it says you can open this up on your own Word doc, or if you want to put it in its own special text box, be sure to write your own paragraph of at least 5 to 7 sentences per topic, so you only have to pick 2 listed to get the credit. If you have trouble uploading the document, if there's a text box, you are more than welcome to let me know. And the due date for this is Sunday, February 22nd. Now, because it's extra credit, you're not able to turn it in late. No late passes for that. Okay, and as always, if you have any questions regarding anything within the week 5, part 1 or part 2, feel free to let me know. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and as always, I'm here to help you.